G'day Internet and welcome to episode 44 of GameDev Coaching. This is the re-record of episode 44, just like last time. This is the second out of 3 videos that were lost due to my hard drive failing. So I'm going through and re-recording them. So what we did last time is we added this nifty mechanism where we can draw some shapes, and if we hover over them, we get the outline. But what happens if we draw overlapping shapes is we can highlight 2 at once. So the first thing that we did in this episode is we went and looked at the drawing code, which I've got here. So we're in draw, that's what we just added. And I showed Daniel this trick. Basically we want to, if we have a shape 0 and then shape 1, I think I did this last time, shape 2, and we're highlighting shapes 1 and 2 when we're hovering, but we want to stop after the first one, and so we have to search backwards through the list and pick the last one. I mean, we can search forward and pick a best one and just keep the latest one, but we may as well search backwards and then just exit. And I showed Daniel this nifty trick. So if we type 4 in Visual Studio and double tap tab, we get a for loop. But if we type 4 reverse and double tap tab, we get the reverse for loop. And this is extremely handy for when you want the last of something. So it's basically search backwards for something. And so we're just going to use this pattern, and we're going to convert this to be what we want. So it's I equals shape count minus 1. So we're starting on the last element, and we're going up to and including, or down to and including, the 0th element. And so we're now searching backwards, and then if we do intersect something, if we're highlighting something, we want to break, so we're not highlighting anything below that. So we'll test that now. And so, hey, index out of range exception. What have I done wrong? Well, can I break, please? Obviously, I minus minus. So, this is why it's always important to test what you're doing as you do it. So, as you can see now, if I highlight these, the second one that I drew is the topmost one, and then, this middle one's the topmost. So we're always highlighting a single shape. So what we're going to do now, the bulk of this episode was about the update system and how you generally handle, how you deal with different possible states. And so we sort of just hammered on that all episode and sort of figured out what the potential issues are. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go top to bottom through this update method and change it so that we can drag shapes around is the goal for today's video. So I'll probably deviate somewhat from the way we, oh no, this color scheme has been changed to, you know what, I'm going to keep recording. But that's really annoying. That's been happening since I reinstalled Windows and new drivers or something, but it seems to still be recording. So I'm going to keep going. Ah, dear. As you can imagine, I'm not thrilled about that. So what are we doing? Okay, so the way we want to do this is we start by copying the draw method up into the update loop. So we're selecting now a shape to draw with, to draw that we're selecting, and we'll just pick somewhere line drawing. That's not really line drawing anymore, so I'm going to get rid of that comment. I think we did at the time too. And copy this up here, and it's like, all right, well, we don't want to draw anymore. We just want to select a shape, and then if we select a shape, we want to do something with it. And then, okay, so what we want to do is think about the possible pitfalls here. It's like, all right, we have a shape that we are moving around. And so what we could do is, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change. So we actually went and fixed this too. So we changed this back to input dot left mouse. Was that went down? And then we change this from right mouse button on Daniel's. I know I always had this as middle mouse, but we actually change this to middle mouse on Daniel as well. We could change this to input.middleMouse drag as well if we were so inclined, but I'll leave that for now. So now we've got middle mouse here, so we're going to use right mouse to move the shape around. So what we could do, like if we wanted to do this in a really simple way, is, for example, if input.right mouse is down, shape.position plus equals I guess mouse world delta. We actually don't have a delta for we'll need the delta of mouse world position, and we'll need the camera transform of the previous mouse position. So I'm just throwing this together because we're not going to actually do this. Oh, God, is that why we've got an... maybe that's why we have a frame of lag. That's not sensible. Yeah, it should be... yeah, that explains a lot. I've been trying to track down the source of lag. Let's see if my version of the code does this. So you know what? We'll be coming back to this in a later episode, sort of in the future, and fixing that. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So this is the one case where we actually want this one. Mouse roll position minus what it was previously, and then that can go away. Sorry for the rat hole here in this. Okay, so in theory what should happen is if I mouse over this, I should be able to drag it. It doesn't work. Why does it not work? Mouse roll position minus camera inverse transform. No, camera inverse dot transform. Huh. Oh, of course, yeah. Okay, this is where this comes unstuck. It's like, all right, I need to edit the actual shape in the array. Get rid of errors. Okay, so let's try that again. Here we go. So I'm dragging this, but this runs into the problem of like, all right, I can drag this top one, but if I'm dragging this one, suddenly I start dragging this one, and then suddenly, oh, now I'm dragging this one. Or you saw what just happened there. I'm like coming off the edge of it. I can rip the mouse away from it. So the whole point of that little digression was to point out the fact that, oh, we actually need to track which one is being dragged. And also the other thing we need to do is like, oh, look, I've drew a shape while I'm dragging. So these are the kind of cases that we need to deal with. So we never actually did this demonstration in the original recording, but it's kind of interesting to look at what happens now. So the point is we need to store some state. And it's like, all right, what state do we need to store? We need to store which shape we started dragging, and whether or not we're dragging, and we need to block this pending shape if we're dragging. So we can't handle that if we're dragging. Then we probably also don't want to start dragging if we're drawing a shape. So they're sort of mutually exclusive. So let's come up here and it's like, all right, what did we end up calling these? I'm just going to go to my existing code because, okay, so we need the index of the shape being dragged. So equals something. And what we could do is bool, is shape being dragged, that's just like a pending shape, but we could just say if it's -1, nothing's being dragged. So let's come down here, and we've started clicking. So if we right click, so if pending shape is false, if not pending shape, let's try and drag something. Shape being dragged equals, if not pending shape and shape being dragged equals -1. So we're not doing anything yet, so we can start dragging the shape. shape being dragged equals, not pending shape and right mouse went down. Shape being dragged equals I. And then we also want to handle if input dot right mouse went up, shape being dragged equals -1. So now we're changing which shape is being dragged. So what we could do, we could go down here. We actually want to do the green thing on hover, but we could actually draw the shape being dragged around. We didn't actually do that, so we'll leave that for now. And then input.left mouse went down, so pending shape becomes true here. So if left mouse went down, I'll actually change the order of that. So yeah, that then becomes mutually exclusive with and shape being dragged is equal to -1. So if there's no shape being dragged. So now in theory, well, we actually have to do something. So if shape being dragged is not equal to -1, now let's set the shape. So this is what we did, and we'll actually go in and change this later. We'll go in and change this later to deal with what happens. Well, yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Shapes I dot shape being dragged dot position equals mouse world position. So this is okay. So this is how we started, and then what we're going to find is, most of the time this works. So this is what we did to begin with, and then we added in some extra stuff. So we can drag this one, or we can drag this one, and now we can overlap it. We can't pull away from it. We're always dragging that, and then we can't start adding shapes in the middle of dragging. And while we're dragging shapes, we can't start adding them. We still get the hover highlight. So if we were really caring about user interface, we might do something about that. And and it still works with our triangles as well. So now we are in the situation where we can start looking at some things with that. So Daniel wanted to add a feature. Actually, before we do that, okay, so we'll talk about the two features that we added on top of this after we point out the bug, and that is we're dragging the shape around, but what happens if, the user hit escape or backspace and deleted all of the shapes? That's fortunately this shape is an array, so it's not a list, so we don't crash or anything, but still, that's a bit of a problem. So we want to deal with that. And so we keep going down the update methods, like, okay, if pending shape is true, we know that shape being dragged is false. We could even debug assert that if we were so inclined, shape being dragged equals -1, and we could also assert in here, it's like, I don't know we ended up doing that, but that's the thing we could do. And then we come down here, it's like, all right, well, changing place circles doesn't make a difference, but being able to hit escape or back, maybe even separate while we are dragging shapes around is probably a bad idea. So let's just wrap the whole thing. If shape being dragged equals -1. So you'll have to, if you're watching the later episodes and this code is slightly different, you'll have to just excuse it because I'm just reconstructing this on the fly. So now it should, like when we're dragging a shape around, I can tap escape, I can try and separate things and so on, and nothing happens. So that's good. We've locked off that minor problem. I'm just going to look at my existing code. Okay, so Daniel did have a thing here. Now we did go through and clean this up. I'm actually probably not going to do this, the cleanup. I'm just fixing the order of things there. So Daniel wanted a feature, and that is, so we added two features on this. Daniel wanted a feature when you hit escape, you want the shape being dragged to go back to -1, and for the position to be reset to where it started. So, so to do that, we need to store it. So shape being dragged do we call it? Position equals shape I dot position. So let's just add that. So vector2. So this is just going to let us hit escape and cancel out of the drag. And we obviously need to do that before we set the index to -1. So we're just going to set that here. So let's try this out. So this is a fairly simple feature to add. So we're dragging it around and then we hit escape and oh no, of course. And then, okay, so then we hit this ordering issue, and that is we then handle this escape thing here. So that's right. So it's always a good idea to have like all your keyboard commands towards the top, I find, and then the mouse commands sort of tends to be the way you want to handle things because, you know, of this particular issue. So now if we put that at the top, then we can hit escape. So again, also remember to test the code. So I'm hitting escape and then we stop dragging. And in fact, well, even though my right mouse button's held down, we're out of drag mode, which is another tricky thing. So you can imagine if I was, instead of blocking shape placement with is there a shape being dragged, if I was going to instead use input dot right mouse is down, I actually have a bit of a weird situation. I mean, I guess it would be over effective rather than under effective in that case, but still, you know, something you want to avoid. So what else? Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to add something called shape drag offset. So you can see when we run this, we drag the circle around, it snaps to the click position. And I just want to have a offset, like I want it to be grabbed by the point that you clicked. So we talked a little bit about the mass for this, but Daniel pretty much got it straight away, and you know, it's very simple. So shape drag offset equals shapes I dot position, shapes I dot position minus mouse world position. So we need to get some storage for that. And so now whenever we drag the shape around, the shape drag offset is going to be what we set the position to. So mouse world position plus the shape drag offset. So you can sort of think about this as kind of an equation. It's like the position, the offset, the world position. You can see if we move this over to the other side, shape position equals shapes offset plus the world position, shape offset plus the world position. So this is like kind of like a system of equations, but it's basically algebraics. You know, we're shuffling that off to the other side, and then it becomes plus, more or less. So that's a simple way to check that your maths is right. And so now when I grab this shape, I'm grabbing it by the point that I clicked on. Hopefully OBS is still capturing the cursor. Oh boy, Windows. So I think that's everything we did. I think I did one more thing. Yeah, and so we tried to clean this up a little bit, but it's fairly clean. There's one more thing I wanted to do, and that was to set us up for next time, and that is now when we're dragging a shape, if shape being dragged equals -1, sorry, is not equals -1. I just wanted to draw a line from the position being dragged, so the shape being dragged dot position plus the shape drag offset. So this is the point on the shape that we're dragging in world space. So it's shape on the point we're dragging, and is relative to the shape's position, and then so we're putting it into the world space by adding the position, and then we want to do it to the mouse world position, and we'll get a thickness, and then we'll call it white. And so this is just going to be a flat out line. Oh, and I've made an error. I think I made the same error on stream. So again, what we were saying about the drag offset, there we go. And God, that explains the weird offset. So if I would go back up to here, that error that we had, so there was actually something that was helping me test last mouse state. Definitely gonna have to fix that up, but if I put that error in, we've got a 1 frame offset, and you can actually see that white line is actually doing stuff. So let's change that back now. But so we have that white line there, and so that's going to come in handy next episode when we talk about, well, it's going to be a surprise. Well, I'll tell you now, we're going to turn that into a spring, so we're going to add some simulation of some velocity. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next episode. I can get OBS to